Okay, thanks, Rachel, and thanks for everybody being here this morning. We have another big week ahead of us, as is normal for Big Ten Conference volleyball. A couple of nice wins last weekend, going over to Illinois and playing in Huff Hall and storming back in set 5 after being down 7-3 to win that one, scoring the final 3 points of the match. 16-14 in the fifth was a real emotional win. And as I was just telling Rachel, it was nice to have that day in between before we had to get ready to play Rutgers. I thought Rutgers played really well against us yesterday afternoon. They've been struggling a little bit in some matches, but they were really, really sharp against us, and we were a little flat. I thought our blocking was suspect at best in that match, allowed their pin hitters who we've done a pretty good job against so far this season, but their pin attackers had a really nice match against us. So at this point in time, we've got a lot to work on as we look forward to Iowa. Iowa played Minnesota really tough in Minneapolis yesterday. It was 4 close sets. Minnesota won, but Iowa, I thought, played better against Minnesota than what they did against us in Iowa City. And then, of course, on Saturday, we have Wisconsin, defending national champions, coming here to play at Holloway Gym. So back-to-back, actually 3 home matches in a row, Rutgers and then Iowa and Wisconsin. So we have to really get something done in these matches. So that's kind of the review, and ready for questions.
All right, Coach. So with so many players stepping into new positions, I think we've been talking about a lot of the new ones, but it feels like Raven's been out there and really been stepping up. You've always talked about how she's a tough competitor. How do you think that's been starting to show since conference play has kind of gotten underway?
Well, we're very fortunate to have her on our roster. I can promise you that. She brings the best out of other people as well because of her fight and her competitiveness and her no-nonsense approach. She's the kind of leader you like to have on your team. She does 9 out of 10 times is going to step up when she really, really has to, and that's exciting. I don't think she's played her best yet this year. She's been working on a lot of parts of her game offensively. We're trying to expand her range to be able to run a lot of different routes, and so she's working on those things. And then sometimes in matches she looks really good doing that, and sometimes she's not quite got it figured out. But for her to become the kind of player we need her to be, we have to stretch her. And you have an athlete like that, you have to get as much out of that player as possible. So I think as the season progresses, you'll see her hitting numbers improve because she works really hard in practice to try to get some things done. So I think eventually that will happen. But overall, she, as I've mentioned before, she's a little undersized as a middle blocker in our league. So she has to be really sharp all the time and be ahead of the game emotionally and things like that, and normally she is.
Gotcha. And speaking of middle blockers and undersized, I'm assuming this was because, excuse me, Hannah was out, but what did you think of Lourdes' first start in there? What are some of the more promising things you saw out of her?
Yeah, I just wanted to play Lourdes Myers because Lourdes has really been impressive to me, not necessarily with her results in practice or her performance in practice, but her engagement in practice, her willingness to listen and learn and open up a little bit more to her teammates. She's been kind of the mysterious Lourdes Myers because she's kind of quiet and she likes to, kind of be on her own. But you can't be a great volleyball player and have that kind of a mindset. And so now that she's going into her 3rd year, still her freshman year, eligibility-wise, she's really starting to, I think, become a lot more engaged and be a bigger part of the team. And I wanted to reward her for that, and I want to get her some minutes and some points in some matches. There's nothing wrong with Hannah Clayton, except she's a great teammate, and she was more than willing to allow that time for Lourdes. I think Lourdes plays bigger than any of our middle blockers do, with the exception of Lizzie Carr, who we plan to redshirt. So we want to get Lourdes those minutes, so when we get into a real match that we need her to perform, she's going to be able to step in, come off the bench, and feel a lot more comfortable than if she hasn't been in a match. You just never know. Obviously, we've had 4 injuries to starters already this year, so you never know when something might happen. And I want Lourdes to be ready. But I thought she stepped up and did a great job, was 6 for 9 offensively and blocked more balls than anybody else on the floor. So I thought it was a good experience for her, and I think that will just continue her growth.
Gotcha. Quick turnaround with Iowa. I remember you mentioned last time that their middles were giving you some trouble there. Do you think the return of some players this time around could have an impact on that?
Well, I hope that we'll be close to a full deck when we play them on Wednesday. That still remains to be seen. I think we're getting closer with Maddie Skimmerhorn, and I just can't tell you how valuable a great libero is, even though we had a replacement that is playing like a great libero. But now to have 2 would be really, really nice, okay? But Skimmerhorn brings a presence to the floor that is somewhat irreplaceable because she's a veteran and great teammate, very enthusiastic, understands the game, and so we will be better when we get her back in the lineup, because then that puts most likely Allie back in the middle back where she covers tremendous amount of ground, and then one of our other DSs in that right back spot. So I look forward to that happening, and I would like to see it happen on Wednesday if we can, but I have not gotten the word yet from our medical team about that. Yeah, we had a hard time with Iowa up there, and their middles were the biggest reason for that. But as I've watched them play since then, they're getting more and more help from their pin attackers. So, you can't just go into the match thinking, okay, we got to shut down their middles and we'll be fine, because their pin players are starting to hit the ball with a lot more confidence. And they were really good last night or yesterday afternoon at Minnesota, because that's a difficult place to play. And they won the 3rd set. They were up, I think, 23-22 in the 2nd set and let it get away from them. So they played Minnesota right down to the wire.
Gotcha. And then last one for me, on Wisco. I mean, there's plenty to talk about with that team, but something that stood out to me was their blocking numbers. They had 4 players averaging over a block per set. What does that mean from a perspective of your hitters and some things? I mean, what does that mean? Well,
hopefully our hitters won't think that much about it, except understand there's going to be a big block. Wisconsin is maybe the biggest team in the country. Now, their biggest player, Anna Smrek, has not played the last 2 matches. So I don't know what her situation is. I mean, you really never know what's happened with people when they've got some medical issues. So I don't know if she'll be back this week or not, but she certainly is an imposing figure on a volleyball floor. And she started for them last year as a freshman, and I think might have been the player of the NCAA Final Four. She was that good. But they do have, blocking is probably one of their strengths right now. They're big and physical and got a lot of experience back from a year ago. They did lose some players that were key figures in their national championship run. They had a lot of super seniors, kind of like what other Big Ten teams had. So they're still trying to figure some things out, but they've got great talent. And as you mentioned, size, length, athleticism, they're not short on any of that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Dave, not that you wanted to have the Illinois match go to 5 or be down 4 points early in that, but what did you learn about your team being in that kind of a situation where it's like, we have to fight or we're going to walk out of here with a loss, and they come back and win that?
Well, first thing I learned, and this has been kind of a consistent theme, is they understand a game plan. And when we have, in that case, 4 days to get ready, they were a totally different team than what we had been playing. Illinois was a lot different than Minnesota, a lot different than Iowa. So we had to really kind of get focused on this really high set and get the tempo down, location. Raina Terry is one of the 6 or 7 best players in this league, the outside hitter, so we spent a lot of time trying to focus on her. And so my point is, the first 2 sets, we were nearly flawless defensively. They had a really difficult time getting the ball across the net. Our block was that good, which is why I was so disappointed yesterday, because our block was that bad. You can't have it both ways, okay? You got to be good all the time if you're going to win in this league. But I just liked the way we were so engaged. But to your question, we've shown several times this year, Sam, that we can come back and win. And we're winning most every close set we get in, we're finding a way to win. And again, I think that has a lot to do with the mentality of our players. We were helped dramatically with the infusion of Hannah Clayton, who competes, Grace Balanciefer, who competes, and Eva Hudson, who competes. And so I think that they've helped our group that we already had that I like to think are some pretty tough customers. So I think they like those situations. They thrive in those situations. I just as soon blow people out if we can, but that won't happen very often in this league. You're going to be in a lot of close matches.
You talked about the injuries you've had. How instrumental is that now, maybe silver lining that you've built some depth because of that?
I think in our league it will be very important. Just the improvement of Ava Torrance and Emily Brown, who were kind of we were for a while trading them off, alternating them in the right back spot, and then the last 3 matches, all of a sudden, they're playing good competition in the Big Ten, and there's nowhere to go. We got no one else on that bench that can come in. So now they're having a bit of pressure on top of the stress they've already got by competing in the Big Ten, and they haven't been flawless. I mean, they've made some errors just like everybody does in this league. But I've been really happy with their development, and Allie Horning, just the way she tackled that libero job, it was amazing that she's held up the way that she has. She's actually gotten better when she took over all 6 rotations. So, yeah, that part's been good. I think the fact that our front line has got some serious depth, and we're not even talking about Rastovsky, who I think is playing really, really well right now. Just a low error player, and just needs some time, kind of like Lourdes Myers. She just needs to get on the floor a little bit more. So obviously with 2 setters, we got great depth there, and we got a third that got in for a little bit yesterday, which was nice to see also. So yeah, those things are working out pretty well for us.
I don't want to go this route really, but if something does happen, what's the option there if one of those girls can't play or whatever the reasoning would be?
In what position?
In the back row. If
I mean, if we get down, we'd have to play a left side hitter all the way around, which we've done before. We just try to hide them and out of the pattern. Or Maddie Chin's a pretty good passer, so she could probably step in and pass some. Cook's not a bad passer. She could step in and pass a little bit. So I think you just got to figure out how you're going to split up the court. You're always going to have your libero and Eva Hudson in the game. So some rotations where Eva might be out of the rotation, out of the serving pattern. She may have to go back into the serve reception pattern, if that makes any sense to you. Because there's lots of times we try to keep Eva in the back row out so she can hit out of the back row. There's one rotation when she's, I think rotation 4, I think it is, she's actually out of the pattern when she's in the front row. So there's still some options we have there.
You talked about Raven's emergence. And, she was really good last year, but just her becoming a solid server for you, how beneficial is that? You talked about, you needed to find some serving this year, and I think she's provided that for you.
She's our best server. She's our most dangerous server. She can make it really difficult on opponents, and she gets better all the time. And the reason she does that is just because of who she is. She spends extra time every week coming into the gym working on her serving. There's not a lot of middle blockers in America that are coming in, 2 or 3 days a week, spending a half an hour working on their serving. That's a blocker hitter mentality for those players. But she's such a great teammate, and she wants this team to do well. She recognizes how valuable she is as a server, and she's made some errors, but not many lately. Okay, and when you serve the ball as tough as she is, you're going to make errors, and we've talked about that in the past, the value of having to serve tough, and we're going to continue to do that. And we're really, our ace-air ratio is really pretty good. It's way above the curve for a Division I team.
And I feel like we ask about Eva Hudson every week, but I mean, is this an unlimited ceiling? Because she just every week is, blowing away the performance she did from the week before.
Yeah, Eva still has a lot to learn. I mean, she has a lot to learn about this game at this level. She's a terrific athlete, an offensive machine, has been pretty good blocking, but we had some problems in that position this past Sunday, where they had Rutgers really scored a lot over there. And it was just because of her not making a minor adjustment that she needed to make. So some of those things have to start becoming natural. She's got to expand her range in the backcourt, make a few more defensive plays in the backcourt. Offensively, I've got nothing I can help her with right now. I mean, she's playing at such a high level. I don't want to even talk to her about anything because she's got that figured out. But some blocking, serving, defense. I think that obviously she's only been playing for 14 matches here at the Division I college level. She's got plenty of things she can continue to improve on. Thanks, Sam.
Dave, can you speak to both the courage and intelligence of Grace Balancey for her to execute a shot like she did at match point Friday night?
I was happy she had it. I know that. But we've talked about that's just kind of the player she is. And again, that goes with being a fifth-year player that has been in that situation a lot, maybe not in the Big Ten, but that's all relative. If the situation is there and you've got enough confidence in who you are to make that play, you're going to make that play. And it was wide open. There's one thing, some setters will make that play and it's not open because the left back player is sitting there on it or the blocker is up on there. She's played enough volleyball and has enough vision and understanding to know that was open. Maybe she saw it from the bench, when she was watching when Meg Renner was in there, okay, that the libero wasn't doing a very good job of covering that. Or maybe just in the play, she was up there. And great setters or great volleyball players have incredible vision. They know what's going on around them. But she just did that, what my brother Steve calls a little peekaboo shot, and dumped it over her right shoulder, and they weren't even close to making the play, and the match was over. So I'd say courage, but just the knowledge of knowing what you're capable of doing.
More general question, we're seeing more and more, especially at the football level, but coaches fired midseason. The pressure on coaches now with the money and the exposure of college athletics increasing, do you feel more pressure now than you did 20 years ago when you took this job?
No. I've never felt any pressure like that here. I feel a lot of pressure for myself. I feel a lot of pressure wanting to do what we can for Boilermaker Nation, but I've never felt any pressure from our administration, from Morgan Burke to Mike Babinski. Matter of fact, Mike Babinski just said I did something smart yesterday. So I saw him in the hallway before I came in. So that's a big compliment from Mike Babinski, by the way, if he tells you did something well. But no, I don't think we've had administration here that coaches would feel that way. I mean, we've had moderate to good success here in volleyball. So I really don't think we've put ourselves in a position to feel that way. But I don't think our administration has ever been that type that's going to ever make coaches. I mean, if you're not winning and you're not winning for a long time, then you're probably going to feel that way because it's just common logic that you may not be here very long. But I could not believe that Wisconsin fired Paul Christ. Now I don't have all the information. I'm not the athletic director. I'm not even associated with Wisconsin. But I just could not believe a guy that has been that successful, that loyal, that loved by his team and his players and his coaches, that after doing all the things he's done, that they would let him go. That's just ridiculous in my opinion. But I don't have all the information. There could be a lot going on there that I don't know about. Okay, thanks guys. Boiler up.